Hello everyone, I am the Bandit Kirby, and welcome to my channel, The Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic Gathering format. The Brewery is a series on this channel showcasing my spicy brews and other deck techs. On this episode of The Brewery, I'll be discussing my take on a commander from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Lilah Undefeated Slickshot. If you like this deck or any of the cards I'll be mentioning throughout the video, please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link when purchasing those cards. You can find that link down in the description. It'll really help out the channel at no extra cost to you. But the very best way you can help support the channel is with my Patreon. There are plenty of perks for being a patron, such as early access to certain videos, exclusive deck techs, gifts, and more for as little as $1. You could also become a channel member for just 99 cents. Show off your support with a logo next to your name and exclusive emojis. Or you can always just support my channel for free by simply liking, subscribing, and sharing, which also helps out a lot. I put out a video every Monday, so you don't want to miss out. You can join my Discord server for free if you want to join the Commander Tavern community. All pertinent links are down in the description. Alright, let's get back to the episode. Lilah is a 3/3 human rogue with prowess for 1 generic, 1 blue, and 1 red. Whenever you cast a multicolored instant or sorcery from your hand, you exile it as it resolves. When you do, it becomes plotted. This is such an amazing ability. It's similar to Rebound, but you get to control when you recast that spell the next time. It doesn't matter if opponents know it's plotted, since they see you cast it beforehand anyways. What's great about this ability is that you're sort of sorting instants and sorceries to have a super splashy future, where you then cast as many of these spells as you want in the main phase when you have priority and an empty stack. An important thing to consider with Lilah is how we do our timing. For example, with her having a base power of 3, Access Tunnel is useful in the deck. If we have a ton of instants and sorceries plotted, we can first make her unblockable with the land and then go off with our stored instants and sorceries, pumping her up each time. Since she's already unblockable, it won't matter if her power is now greater than 3. This is important timing, so keep that in mind. I mean, the deck's also running Rogue's Passage for when you don't want to worry about timing. But having both lands in play means making 2 game-ending attackers unblockable, so keep that in mind. If there's something opponents won't expect from this deck, is dying to commander damage. While Lilah herself is a payoff since she has prowess, let's first see the deck's other payoffs before we see the instants and sorceries per se that are included. Since we can essentially double cast these spells, we get double the triggers. So what better triggers than those that end games? Electrostatic Field, Erebor Flamesmith, Firebrand Archer, Kessig Flame Breather, Thermal Alchemist, Fiery Inscription, Gutter Snipe, Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch, and Gallandolf the Grey will all trigger off of instants and sorceries we cast regardless of where we cast them from. However, more importantly, they deal damage to all opponents. Some even have other bonuses attached, such as the Flamer recovering a random instant or sorcery from our graveyard and Gandalf doing it all. We can also twiddle a permanent, copy an instant or sorcery, or top deck him. All this on top of choosing to also give 3 damage to all opponents. Now, 1 or 2 damage here or there might not seem like a lot in a 40 life multiplayer format. But there are also other ways to burn, including Passionate Archaeologist, Keeper of Secrets, and Flaming Tyrannosaurus. These only trigger when spells are cast from outside of our hand, with the background specifying only from exile. These will thus only trigger when we cast the plotted spells from exile. That being said, they deal damage equal to the mana value of the cast spell, which is significantly higher than 1 or 2 damage. The demon is also an amazing creature with 6 power and first strike, making it an excellent blocker. The dinosaur gets huge and then, if killed off, deals even further damage. Sorcerer Class and Aetherflux Reservoir can also help in games. We have to get the class to level 3 in order to burn like the previous effects, but it enters and loots us too, and then we can tap down creatures to help pay for instants and sorceries, which is amazing for what the deck wants to do. The reservoir doesn't burn per spell cast, but we gain a ton of life per spell cast. Then we have a red button to kill off any opponent at instant speed. Oherashonil Deepest Might makes it so that those previously mentioned effects do even more damage, at least 4 damage. But if it had an even higher power, the burn will be even more. And the deck has multiple effects to do so this underground god does a ton of work. Speaking of increasing power, Lilah isn't the only one with prowess. Bria Riptide Rogue gives prowess to each other creature we control while having prowess itself. Balmor Battle Mage Captain also pumps our creatures, but only their power while also providing trample. These 2 legends help close out games. Not only are our spells pinging the whole table 1 or 2 or maybe even more damage at a time, but our creatures are also getting bigger for a following game-ending Alpha Strike. Not only that, but with either of these in play with Oherashonil, the damage dealt by our burn effects gets larger the more we cast in a single turn. Veyran Voice of Duality makes it happen even faster since she has our triggers trigger an additional time. Well, anything that would trigger from us having cast an instant or sorcery. Veyran does so much work in this deck, and she also pumps herself too, giving us another potentially huge beater. Veyran also helps with the deck's card advantage effects like Case of the Ransacked Lab, Archmage Emeritus, Invasion of Ravnica, Tome of the Guildpact, and Niv-Mizzet Parum. The case needs to be solved in order for us to draw cards whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell, but that's easy to do once we have a handful of them plotted. The Emeritus is straight to the point and one of the best ones here, along with Niv-Mizzet since he triggers whenever anyone casts an instant or sorcery spell, so make sure you're paying attention during your game. He's also another burn effect since you can ping any target whenever you draw a card, plus is a 5/5 flyer, making him a great beater too. The battle is removal when it enters the battlefield, but it's card advantage when it transforms into Guildpact Paragon. Then, anytime we cast any 2-colored spell, whether it's an instant or sorcery or not, we filter the top 6 cards for any exactly 2-colored card and put it into our hand. The best thing about this creature is that if it were an instant or sorcery spell that triggered it, Veyran will have it trigger again. The synergy just oozes in this deck. Similarly, Tome of the Guildpact triggers whenever we cast any multicolored spell, but also serves as a mana rock, albeit a hefty costed one, but that's fine because it provides card advantage and mana acceleration. Speaking of mana acceleration, Stormkiln Artist creates a treasure token whenever we cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell. Once we're casting a bunch of them during a single turn, this can help power through casting even more of them thanks to the treasures. Or we could just store the treasures for future explosive turns as well as keeping it a huge beater because it gets +1/+0 for each artifact we control, as if that wasn't enough. What a busted card. Last but not least are Talrand Sky Summoner and Metallurgic Summonings. Yes, Talrand is a meme at this point, but creating a 2/2 flyer each time he triggers is amazing in this deck, providing chump blockers or future beaters for explosive turns. The enchantment creates an XX without evasion, which isn't bad, but these things add up. Additionally, it also serves as recovery for even more explosive turns. So if we've been casting a ton of instants and sorceries throughout the game, plotting almost all of them, we can then recast them all via plot in a single explosive turn, all for free mind you. Then we can just activate Metallurgic Summonings to get them all back into our hand from our graveyard to do all over again. Do not sleep on this card here. Same with similar effects like Learn from the Past. Yes, this shovels our graveyard into our library, but we can do so at instant speed in response to someone exiling it. Plus, if going against a Reanimator deck, we can play this in response to them reanimating anything. And we draw a card as a bonus too. With so many legendary creatures providing value, Swiftfoot Boots and Champion's Helm are included to give them hexproof. Then again, you don't really need a reason to run these equipment since they're good in your deck regardless, if for nothing else than protecting your commander. Alright, now that we saw all the payoffs, which spells did I include in the deck? A quick Scryfall search shows that, as of the making of this video, 65 instants and sorceries exist that will trigger Leela when cast from hand. So when building the deck, I focused on those that had multiple uses within a single spell, as well as anything that provided card advantage or interaction. In terms of card advantage, we have Arcane Infusion, Expressive Iteration, Steam Augury, Practical Research, and Thought Flare. Unfortunately, some of these are more loot effects than anything, or have cards go to the graveyard as part of the effect. This is why the recovery effects in the deck are so good, because they can handle these artificial situations as well. The deck has tons of other card advantage pieces as previously seen, so these help push it further. It's why Reliquary Tower is included since it doesn't take up a slot on the deck. War Room is also included for the same reason. Plus, you only need 2 life to activate it. In any case, those spells are good enough for card advantage considering we're also running Izzet Charm, Slick Sequence, Flame of Anor, Prismari Command, Ill-Timed Explosion, Truth or Consequences, Prophetic Bolt, Creative Outburst, and Magma Opus. All of these cantrip as part of their effect or give us a mode where we can choose to draw or loot cards. However, another thing all these spells have in common is that they also contain some form of interaction, whether it's burning creatures or destroying something. These are possibly the best red-blue instants and sorceries in the deck for that reason. They provide a ton of flexibility to then get plotted by Leela to do it all over again for free in a future turn. Beacon Bolt, Gandalf's Sanction, Role Reversal, Chaos Mutation, and Turn and Burn also provide interaction via multicolored instants and sorceries. Something important to clarify about Turn and Burn is that if you fuse it, then it's considered a multicolored spell. However, you cannot fuse it from exile after plotting it, since you can only fuse from your hand. So if you're going to recast it via plot, you have to choose either turn or burn when you do. Role Reversal is a fun card in the deck since you can give away a token like a treasure, drake, construct, etc. to steal an opponent's best artifact or creature. So much so that Dwarven Mine and Kirkkeep are included to make sure we have shitty tokens to give away. Kirkkeep also helps us chump blockers in a pinch as well as creatures we can bank for when we're pumping them all with Bria and or Balmor. We can also get the Mine in play at instant speed in response to the spell for that pro gamer move thanks to the deck's fetch lands. Obviously the fetch lands aren't included just for rattlesnaking Dwarven Mine, since they help us fix our colors, which is very important in the deck. But we can also Rattlesnake Mystic Sanctuary in order to top deck an important instant or sorcery in response to a card draw effect for that pro gamer move, as is expected with most of the blue decks I build. Speaking of recovery and creating tokens, Experimental Overload does just that. While the Weird doesn't have any built-in evasion, it's still huge when cast in the late game, when opponents should either be mostly eliminated or about to be. Not only that, but we recover an instant or sorcery to our hand too. It does exile itself as part of its resolution. An offer you can't refuse, Counterspell, Negate, Chaos Warp, Guthrie Writes History, Cyclonic Rift, and Blasphemous Act are included in the deck, and it's important to touch on these because not all instants and sorceries in your Leela deck should be strictly multicolored. I mean, sure, you could if you wanted to, but most of them are clunky and costly. You're still going to need to protect your board as well as deal with opponents' boards. While testing the deck, Blasphemous Act was a 1 red mana, one-sided board wipe thanks to Bria giving all my creatures prowess. Once all my creatures had a toughness over 13, I essentially cleared the way for my game-ending Alpha Strike. Oh, and overloading Cyclonic Rift will do that too. As for the mana acceleration, non-green decks can't be choosers, so we have to run things like Wayfarer's Bauble, Burnished Heart, Canoptic Wraith, Navigation Orb, Scampering Surveyor, Solemn Simulacrum, and Sword of Hearth and Home in order to ramp into basic lands. Don't get me wrong, they still get the job done. They're just more expensive than something like Rampant Growth, or even Mana Rocks, which I don't like running because of effects like Vandal Blast, Farewell, etc. Soul Ring is essentially the only Mana Rock in the deck. That being said, while testing the deck, I was able to get Sword of Hearth and Home onto Solemn Simulacrum and attack into a green player full of a handful of turns. The sword ramped me for a basic, and then I just blinked Solemn Simulacrum for another basic. So good. The sword also provides significant pump and protection for our commander too. Seal of the Guild Pact helps accelerate mana by reducing the cost of our blue and or red spells, since those are the colors obviously chosen. If it wasn't already obvious, you have a reminder in the art, since it's the Izzet Guild symbol that's lit up. In any case, this helps tremendously when casting our red and blue spells, since they'll all cost 2 generic less, and that's nothing to scoff at when wanting to cast multiple instants and sorceries in a single turn. Not only that, but this will also work with all of our spells, including our commander and other multicolored spells. Even so, a reduction of just 1 for our single colored spells is amazing too. The rest of the deck is just the rest of the lands. The deck's running Molten Tributary, Steam Vents, Thundering Falls, Volatile Fjord, Cascade Bluffs, Stormcarved Coast, Sulphur Falls, Training Center, Command Tower, and Ancient Tomb, as well as 5 of each basic land for the deck's land base ramp. As with all of my deck techs, you can build your mana base according to your budget. Whether you include more or expensive cards or even cheaper cards is up to you. You do you. This view is just an idea of how to build around Lilah Undefeated Slickshot. While Lilah might seem like yet another legendary blue-red commander that cares about casting instants and sorceries, you wouldn't be wrong. However, unlike most others, she provides the potential of rewarding you, including slightly subpar spells if they're multicolored, to give you the opportunity to recast them again later for explosive turns. Something that she does very well. Not only that, but she also provides a potential Voltron win if you do, either winning out of nowhere or over the course of the game. If you're interested in the deck list of this spicy brew of mine, you can find a link to it down in the description. I would like to thank all my patrons for supporting me, and a quick shout out to all my higher tier patrons, the Brewers, for their patronage. I'd also like to thank anyone using my TCG Player affiliate link. That also helps out the channel. I also want to thank any channel members. Your membership is greatly appreciated. And to everyone, thanks for watching this episode of The Brewery on the Commander Tavern. I am Demented Kirby, and happy brewing.